Welcome to the Care Chronicles with a Caring Touch, where compassion meets wisdom in every episode, dedicated to our beloved seniors and caregivers. Join us as we explore the heartwarming stories, experts' insights, and practical advice that make every moment with our elderly truly special. Get ready for insightful conversations, practical tips, and heartfelt moments that warm the heart and nourish the soul. Because here at A Caring Touch, we believe in laughter, learning, and love as essential ingredients to aging gracefully. So tune in, relax, let A Caring Touch be your guide to making every moment count. Welcome back to the Care Chronicles, where we bring empathy and real life strategies that you can help support our elderly community. Today's episode, we're going to talk about something we all will face: the normal changes that come with aging and how we can respond with care instead of fear. If you've ever wondered why your elderly loved ones suddenly losing interest in their hobbies, avoiding reading, or can't taste their food, or seems more tired even after a full night's rest, this episode may be for you. Have you ever thought or caught yourself saying, "Mom's just not herself lately," or "Dad's losing interest in everything," or "They're getting so forgetful"? The truth is, aging starts subtly: a lost taste for food, a forgotten appointment, a fall that could have been worse. It's easy to mislabel these things as stubbornness or laziness, but more often they're signs that the body is simply changing. So let's start with our senses. In terms of your sight, the muscle around your eyes weaken with age. That's why reading small print becomes a strain. Seeing at night or in dim lighting is harder, and peripheral vision narrows. Colors like blue and green may look nearly identical, and tears become less frequent, which would lead to dry, itchy, and irritated eyes. These will put someone at greater risk for an eye infection or conditions like cataracts. Next, we can talk about sound. Hearing loss, especially for high pitched tunes, is extremely common. The inner ear stiffens, which doesn't just make things quieter, but it also changes how certain sounds sound altogether. So, this can lead to things like ringing in the ear, which is called tinnitus, misunderstanding speech, and it can also affect someone's balance. Our next sense is the taste and smell. Taste buds diminish as you grow older and smells weaken. So suddenly food becomes bland or worse, just unappealing. Many older adults start adding more salt or sugar, and this can be dangerous for someone who has high blood pressure or diabetes. This also can explain the quiet loss of appetite, and meals that used to be joyful, now they're just like another chore, another thing to eat, something that you really need to do versus something that you enjoy. So let me tell you a story. There was once a caregiver, Alejandra. She was caring for her grandmother, and her grandmother kept trying to skip her meals, would get away with maybe skipping her lunch when Alejandra wasn't looking. And Alejandra kept getting frustrated because she knew her grandmother needed to eat, needed to consume calories to keep her body going. But the grandmother just didn't want to eat and kept telling Alejandra that, "Hey, I'm not hungry. I don't want the food." But when she had another family member come in and, sit with grandma and talk to her a little bit during her meal, she noticed that, hey, she's eating again. And that got her wondering, hey, what's going on? So she asked, sat with her grandmother and, asked gently. And during this time, her grandma admitted that, the sandwich doesn't really taste like anything to her anymore. And when she eats, there's no one typically, especially for lunch, around to hang out with her or spend time with her. So eating is, again, going back to that same notion of it being a chore, it being something that needs to get done. So what Alejandra started to do was spend time with her grandmother during her lunch breaks and eat with her grandmother, so that this is something that her grandmother enjoyed and looked forward to, and was able to, keep nourishing her body to continue going. So at the end of the day, it wasn't about the food. It was more about the experience for her grandmother. It was more about the connection. And these were some invisible changes that, Alejandra didn't know initially until she spoke with her grandma what she really needed. Next, let's talk about some support strategies. So, if you are a caregiver for someone and, these are some of the things as they're aging that they need more assistance with. One thing in terms of communication tips you can do is get their attention before you speak to them. Don't speak to them while you're like turned away, while you're turned backwards, while you have your back turned towards them. Get their attention, just be like, hey, and speak to them, because whenever you're facing them, it's easier for them to see and grasp better at what you're saying. And next, you could speak clearly. You don't necessarily have to speak louder, but you could articulate those consonants so that there's more clarity in the sentences whenever you articulate more. You could also use short and direct messages with your elderly loved ones. And again, I know we've talked about how high pitched sounds are harder to hear, so use a lower tone of voice. In terms of helping your loved one in their environment, keep furniture and personal items in the same place so that they know they can go back to that place and find that item. And, in terms of furniture, keeping them in the same area that would avoid them from bumping into something because it's in an unfamiliar position or area. Ensure strong lighting and consistent lighting throughout the house so that there's no question as to, if they could see or not. And make sure to remove fall hazards from their way. So things like cords, sometimes some rugs. Just make sure that you remove any fall hazards for your elderly loved one that might be in their way. In terms of tools that can help for hearing, there are hearing aids available. There's amplified or captioned phone options that you can change in the phone settings. You can, if you're watching TV, use closed caption TV. For vision changes, things that can help are things like magnifiers. Sometimes you might need to look into getting glasses, large print books, special bulbs, and text to speech e readers. And here's something critical. If your loved one is not using their hearing aids or their glasses, ask them why. Is it discomfort? Is it embarrassing? Does it not work? Is it malfunctioning? Don't help if they're, locked away in the drawers. So make sure that they're encouraged to use their hearing aids and glasses and assisting devices to help see and hear. So next, let's shift towards our nervous system. Aging changes the brain too. Neurons and brain chemicals shift and reaction times slow down. DNA programs begin to activate in new ways, and sometimes harmful substance buildup can also contribute to some of the brain changes that you have. So the result of all these changes could be slower processing. This could also lead to difficulty sleeping, short-term memory lapses, and slower reflexes, especially in your hands and feet. So because of this, things like driving become dangerous, some conversations might be harder to follow, and multitasking is nearly impossible. So that doesn't mean there's a cognitive decline inevitable, but it does mean that we need to adapt to some of these changes and how we engage. So, in terms of how to help with these changes that might be happening to keep your brain active, encourage using the brain with things like reading, puzzles, chess, checkers, brain games, music, storytelling. These are all things that will help with keeping your brain active and in use. If you're a caregiver for someone and, if they have a memory lapse or a slip, be patient with them and avoid correcting them in a shameful way. Be kind. And other things you can do is limit caffeine and alcohol use because this will affect their sleep, especially caffeine in the evenings, especially close to bedtime. That will affect someone and how they are going to sleep, and respect their sleep rhythms. And these things may shift over time, so just be respectful and mindful. So, some signs you can watch for would be like unsteadiness, disorientation, or confusion. And then some dangerous behavior would be like leaving the stove on and forgetting, and or wandering out of the house. And in these cases, just be very careful and deal with it appropriately with your loved one. So these things could be something that leads to something more serious. So make sure you're discussing any changes with, a healthcare provider or the primary care physician for whoever you're caring for. Next, I want to talk about the truth with metabolism, why you feel like energy disappears. Let's finish up with this invisible system that impacts basically everything. So, what happens? Circadian rhythm, your body's internal clock slows down as you grow older, as you age. And also, hormones like melatonin decrease in your body, which affects your sleep cycle. And the processing of glucose weakens, which, raises the risk of type 2 diabetes. The liver and kidneys become less efficient at metabolizing medications. So it might take longer for certain medications to be metabolized and used. So the liver and kidneys become less efficient at metabolizing medications. So this could mean even normal doses can be dangerous. Other changes would be things like weight gain will become more likely even without dietary changes. Insomnia becomes more common and sleep is more disruptive. So, ways you can help with metabolic changes is encouraging regular meals, some gentle exercise, and consistent sleep routine. Monitor medications closely and report any side effects. And then, if they have diabetes, make sure you're supporting their diet, monitoring blood sugar, and ensure that meds are taken as ordered by their physician. So, some signs to watch for could be rapid or unexplained weight changes, trouble falling or staying asleep, increased sensitivity to medication, and some behavioral changes related to their blood sugar. So, what I want you to take from this is, these are some of the systems that we talked about dealing with the normal aging process. And aging is not a breakdown. It might seem like it, but think of it more as a recalibration. Our loved ones are adapting, and our role isn't to fix them, it's to walk with them during this stage of their life. And if you take anything from this, the more we understand aging, the more compassion we can have, and the more compassion we bring to it. And if this episode helped you reframe what normal aging might look like, share with someone, a friend, a caregiver. Give us a like, rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or on YouTube. And we will discuss more into the other systems like the heart, the lungs, the bones, the gut, and your immune system as those also begin to change with the normal aging process. So until next time, I hope you stay present, stay informed, and stay compassionate. Talk to you soon. Thank you for joining us on this heartwarming journey with a caring touch. Be sure to check out our website and connect with us on social media for more stories, resources, and ways to get involved. We're excited for you to join us again in our next episode, where we'll continue to explore the beauty of aging with grace and compassion and dive deeper into topics that matter to our elderly community. Until then, stay connected, stay caring, and we'll talk to you again soon on the Care Chronicles with a caring touch.